When was the last time you actually thought about your entryway? Not walked through it, not dropped your keys on whatever surface was nearest, not kicked off your shoes in whatever direction they landed, but actually thought about it. Intentionally, the way you might think about your living room furniture arrangement, or your kitchen backsplash, or the throw pillows on your bed. If you are like the overwhelming majority of American homeowners and renters, the honest answer is probably never. Or maybe once, when you first moved in, and then life happened and that space became exactly what most entryways become: a landing zone, a dumping ground, a transitional nowhere that exists between the outside world and the actual home, treated as if it barely counts as a room at all. And here is what makes that so remarkable when you stop and really look at it. The entryway is the first thing you see when you come home every single day. It is the first thing every guest experiences when they walk through your door. It is the space that sets the emotional tone for everything that follows. The entire feeling of your home, the entire atmosphere you have worked to create in your living spaces, begins or is undermined right there in those first few feet. The entryway is not a transitional nowhere. It is, by almost every measure of psychology, design, and lived human experience, the most important room in your home. And most Americans are completely, almost willfully, ignoring it. That stops today. Because by the end of this video you are going to understand exactly why your entryway matters more than you have ever given it credit for. What the psychology actually says about first impressions and spatial transitions, and exactly what to do about it regardless of whether your entryway is a grand foyer, a narrow hallway, or literally just the corner by a door. There is a version of this transformation available to every single home, and none of it requires what you think it requires. Stay with me, because we are going to cover everything. Let's start with the psychology, because this is the part that tends to genuinely surprise people, and it is the foundation for everything practical that follows. There is a substantial body of research in environmental psychology, the study of how physical spaces affect human behavior, emotion, and cognition that has been building since the 1970s. And one of its most consistent and replicated findings is this: transitions between spaces are psychologically significant in ways that far exceed what most people consciously register. Every time you move from one environment to another, from outside to inside, from public space to private space, from the chaos of the world to the sanctuary of home, your nervous system is performing a recalibration. It is reading the new environment for signals about how to feel, how to behave, what mode to enter. This is not a metaphor. It is a measurable physiological process. Cortisol levels, heart rate, and muscle tension all respond to environmental cues in the transition zone, the space you enter first before you have even consciously processed your surroundings. What this means in practical terms is that your entryway is giving your nervous system its first set of instructions every single time you come home. If those instructions are chaos, visual clutter, piled shoes, dropped bags, surfaces covered in mail and miscellaneous objects, no coherent organization or intention, then your nervous system receives chaos as its first signal. And that signal does not simply disappear when you walk into the living room. It carries. It primes you. It colors the next hour of your evening in ways you will feel, but probably not trace back to those first 15 seconds inside your front door. Researchers at UCLA Center on Everyday Lives and Families spent years studying how American families interact with their homes. And one of the most striking findings from that research was the direct relationship between physical disorder in transitional spaces and elevated stress hormones in the people who lived there. Cluttered, disorganized entry areas were among the strongest predictors of elevated cortisol throughout the evening hours. Not the messiest kitchen, not the most disorganized bedroom. The entry, the first space, the place where the transition happens. Because that transition, that first environmental impression, sets a neurological baseline that the rest of the home experience is built on top of. Now flip that around, and this is where it gets exciting. If a chaotic entryway primes your nervous system for stress, then an intentional entryway, organized, visually calm, warm, welcoming, primes your nervous system for something completely different. For decompression, for the signal that the outside world is done, and the home is beginning. Designers who understand this talk about the entryway as a decompression chamber, a transitional ritual space whose entire purpose is to help you leave the outside world behind and arrive fully in your home. When it works, you feel it immediately, even if you cannot name it. Something shifts, something releases, You are home in the deepest sense of the word, not just physically, but psychologically. That is what is available to you. And almost nobody is taking advantage of it. So why is the entryway the most neglected space in the American home? The answer is both simple and slightly uncomfortable. It is neglected precisely because it is transitional. It is not a room where you spend extended time. You do not sit in your entryway. You do not entertain in your entryway. You do not relax in your entryway. You move through it. And because you move through it rather than inhabiting it, it falls off the mental map of spaces worth investing in. The living room gets the new sofa. The bedroom gets the new bedding. The kitchen gets the renovation. The entryway gets whatever ends up there by default. A coat hook that was already installed. A bench someone bought without thinking. A rug that was on sale. And approximately 400 items that have no designated home anywhere else in the house. This is the dumping ground phenomenon, and it is almost universal. Shoes multiply by the door. Backpacks get dropped in the same spot every day. Packages pile up. Umbrellas accumulate. Mail gets sorted halfway, and then abandoned. And slowly, incrementally, the entryway becomes the most honest room in the house. A visible record of every moment of convenience chosen over intention. It is not a judgment. It is a pattern. And like all patterns, it has a fix. But before we get to the fixes, and we are going to get very specific and very practical, there is one more layer of the psychology that is worth understanding, because it applies not just to how the entry affects you, but to how it affects every single person who walks through your door. First impression research in psychology is among the most robust and well-replicated bodies of work in the entire field. The original studies by psychologist Nalini Ambady showed that people form stable, accurate impressions of environments and the people associated with them within the first few seconds of exposure. Subsequent research has confirmed and extended this finding across cultures, contexts, and types of impression, and what it consistently shows is that first impressions are not only fast, they are sticky. They establish a frame through which all subsequent information is interpreted. When a guest walks through your front door, the entryway is forming their impression of your entire home before they have seen a single other room. If the entryway is disorganized and neglected, that impression, even if it is never consciously articulated, colors how they perceive everything that follows. The beautiful living room they walk into next is seen slightly differently because of what they encountered first. Conversely, a thoughtful, welcoming entryway primes a guest's perception of the whole home positively, and that halo effect carries through every room they enter afterward. This is not about impressing people. It is about understanding how perception actually works and using that understanding to your advantage. Now let's talk about what to actually do, because this is where the transformation lives. And the first thing to understand is that entryway design is not about grand foyers or expensive renovations. It is about function and intention in whatever space you have. Whether your entryway is a 10 by 12 dedicated foyer, a narrow 4-foot hallway, or a corner near a door in an open-plan apartment, the same principles apply, and the same transformation is available. The single most important thing you can do for any entryway is establish dedicated homes for the objects that inevitably accumulate there. This sounds almost embarrassingly simple, but the reason entries become dumping grounds is not laziness. It is the absence of systems. Things pile up in the entry because they have nowhere specific to go. And when there is no specific place for something, it lands wherever gravity and convenience dictate. Shoes pile up by the door because there is no shoe storage. Bags drop on the floor because there is no hook or shelf at the right height. Mail accumulates on the nearest surface because there is no designated tray or basket. The fix to the dumping ground is not more discipline. It is better design. When everything has a home, putting things in their home becomes the path of least resistance, rather than a conscious act of effort. For shoes, this means actual storage, not just a mat to pile them on, but a dedicated solution that fits your volume and your space. For a larger entryway, a shoe cabinet or built-in bench with storage underneath gives you both seating for putting shoes on and off and concealed storage that keeps the visual space clean. For a narrow hallway, a slim shoe rack designed specifically for tight spaces can hold 8 to 12 pairs in less than a foot of depth. For a minimal corner, even a small basket designated specifically for shoes creates enough of a system that the piling behavior changes. The specific product matters less than the principle. There must be a designated place. It must be easy to access. And it must be close enough to the door that using it is not an extra step. That's simply a natural part of the transition. For coats, bags, and everyday carry items. The keys, the wallet, the sunglasses, the phone charger, the reusable bags. The hook situation in most American entryways is either non-existent or completely inadequate. A single hook does not work for a family of 4. 2 hooks does not work for a family of 4. The solution is a proper hook rail, or a grid of individual hooks at varying heights, some at adult height for coats and bags, some at lower height for children's items or shorter pieces. A small shelf above the hooks for hats, scarves, and the objects that don't hang adds another layer of organization without requiring significant depth. And directly below or adjacent to the hooks, a small tray or bowl for keys and pocket items, dedicated, always in the same place, eliminates the daily chaos of the missing keys search that begins so many mornings on the wrong note. The mail problem, which is really the flat surface problem, deserves its own attention. Every entry has at least one flat surface, and flat surfaces and entryways accumulate objects the way drains accumulate water. It is simply what they do in the absence of a system. The solution is not to remove the flat surface but to give it a job. A tray, a basket, or a small wall-mounted organizer, designated specifically for incoming mail, that needs to be dealt with turns that accumulation from chaos into a system. Add a small decorative object, a plant, a candle, a small piece of art, to claim visual territory on that surface, so that random objects do not colonize it by default. The surface needs a purpose and an aesthetic identity, or it will develop both on its own, and neither will be the one you want. Now let's talk about the visual and atmospheric elements, because this is where entryway design moves from functional to genuinely transformative, and it is also where most people dramatically underestimate the impact of small changes in a small space. The entryway is unique among all the rooms in your home in that it is experienced briefly and intensely. Nobody lingers in the entry the way they linger in the living room. What this means is that strong, intentional design choices land harder and faster in an entry than anywhere else in the home. A single dramatic element, a piece of art, an interesting mirror, a striking light fixture, makes an immediate and lasting impression in a way that the same element might take a few minutes to register in a larger room. A mirror is the single most recommended entryway addition for a reason that is both practical and psychological. Practically, it allows you to check your appearance before leaving, a function so useful that it almost justifies the investment by itself. But more importantly, for design purposes, a mirror reflects light and visually doubles the perceived size of any space. In a narrow hallway, a well-placed mirror can make the space feel twice as generous as it actually is. A mirror with an interesting frame also serves as a piece of art, a focal point that gives the eye somewhere intentional to land when you enter the space. For the investment relative to impact, the entry mirror may be the single best design decision available in this entire room. Lighting in the entry follows exactly the same principles we covered in our lighting video. And if you have not watched that one yet, it is linked in the description because the two topics work together completely. The overhead builder-grade light that came with your home is almost certainly working against your entryway's atmosphere. A statement fixture, a small pendant, a semi-flush mount with visual interest, even a wall sconce on either side of a mirror, changes the character of the space in a way that is immediate and dramatic. Warm-toned bulbs, 2700K, are non-negotiable in an entryway, because the warmth of the light is the first atmospheric signal your nervous system receives on arrival. Cool fluorescent light in an entryway is the architectural equivalent of a cold handshake. Plants deserve a specific mention here because they are among the most underused entry elements, and their impact goes beyond aesthetics. Research in environmental psychology consistently shows that the presence of living plants in transitional spaces reduces cortisol and promotes the sense of arrival and relaxation. A single plant, one that can tolerate the lower light levels typical of entryways, positioned near the door or on a console table, does something to the atmosphere of a space that no other decorative element quite replicates. It signals life. It signals care. It signals that this space is tended and intentional. Snake plants, pothos, and ZZ plants are all excellent choices for lower light entryways and require minimal maintenance. The impact they add far exceeds the effort they demand. Let's talk about flooring and rugs for a moment. Because the floor is actually the most neglected surface in entry design, and it is the one that takes the most physical abuse. Your entryway floor sees more dirt, more impact, more weather, and more traffic than any other surface in your home. And in most homes it is covered either by nothing or by a single flat mat that has been there since move-in and has not been cleaned with any regularity since. A proper entryway rug, durable, washable, sized correctly to actually define the space rather than sitting as a small island in the middle of it, is both functional and visually critical. It anchors the area. It defines the transition zone. It adds warmth, texture, and color to what is often the hardest surfaced room in the house. And it protects your actual flooring from the daily assault it would otherwise absorb. Sizing is where most people get this wrong. The instinct is to buy a small rug because the space feels small, and a small rug feels safe and appropriately modest. But a small rug in an entryway does the opposite of what a rug is supposed to do. It makes the space feel smaller and more tentative rather than defined and anchored. In any entryway, though larger than your instinct suggests, the rug should be large enough that when someone stands in the primary area of the entryway, they are standing on the rug, not beside it. It should fill the space visually, not float in the middle of it apologetically. One final thing before the call to action, and it might be the most important practical insight in this entire video. The entryway is not a project you do once and finish. It is a system you maintain, and maintenance only happens consistently when the system is designed for how you actually live rather than how you theoretically intend to live. The most beautifully designed entryway in the world will become a dumping ground, again within 3 weeks if the storage solutions do not match your real daily habits. If the hooks are slightly too far from the door, if the shoe rack holds 8 pairs but your family has 20, if the mail tray is too small for your actual mail volume. Design your entryway around your real behavior, not your ideal behavior. Observe what actually accumulates, where it actually lands, and what the path of least resistance actually looks like in your specific space. And then build systems that make the intentional choice the easy choice. That is the difference between an entryway that stays transformed and one that reverts within a month. Your entryway is the opening sentence of your home's story. It is the first impression, the first emotional signal, the first psychological instruction your nervous system receives every single time you arrive home. It deserves your attention. It deserves your intention. And it will repay that investment every single day, in the way you feel when you walk through your own front door, and in the way every person who walks through that door after you experiences the home you have built. If this video made you look at your own entry differently, and I am willing to bet it did, then you already know this channel is where you come for the insights that actually move the needle on how your home feels to live in. Not surface level tips, not trend chasing aesthetics, but the foundational thinking that makes every design decision more intentional and more impactful. Subscribe right now if you are not already part of this community. Hit that notification bell so you do not miss what is coming next. And if you found this video genuinely useful, share it with one person whose entryway you have seen and thought, they need this. The next video is already waiting for you, and it is going to change how you think about another room that almost everyone gets fundamentally wrong. We will see you there.